It started like any regular shift at the late-night diner off Route 7, the kind of place with flickering neon signs, greasy menus, and customers who rarely looked up from their coffee. Josh, a quiet guy in his mid-20s, had been working there for months, cleaning tables, mopping floors, clocking in and out without much thought. He didn't expect drama. He definitely didn't expect her. It was past midnight when she walked in. Tall, lean, a little rough around the edges. Her hoodie was oversized and damp from the rain, and she didn't say a word when she stepped inside. Josh figured she needed work, maybe homeless, maybe just down on her luck. The manager, fed up with short staffing, shoved a mop into Josh's hand and nodded toward her. Train her, tonight. Josh didn't argue. He just handed her the mop with a tired half-smile, expecting a shrug or maybe a sigh. But that's when he saw it. The sleeve of her hoodie slipped for just a second, revealing a dark, coiled tattoo on her forearm, a viper. Perfectly inked, fangs bared, and eyes like fire. He froze. Not because he was scared of tattoos, he had one himself, but because that exact viper design matched a sketch from a news report he'd seen weeks ago. A case still open. Something about a string of small-town burglaries and a suspect the police hadn't found. The woman didn't notice his reaction. She just tightened her grip on the mop and started cleaning in silence. But Josh couldn't unsee. The ink, the same pattern. The same eyes. Now every creak in the diner felt louder. Every glance from her held weight. Was she just someone looking for work, or someone running from something? Josh had no idea what he was mopping his way into. But something told him this shift wouldn't end like the others. Josh tried to shake it off. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe that tattoo was common. Still, his stomach was tight and his mind kept racing. He went back to wiping the counters, stealing glances whenever she passed. She moved like she knew how to stay unnoticed, quiet steps, eyes always scanning. Like she'd done this before. He thought about the news story again. String of burglaries across nearby towns, jewelry stores, pawn shops, even a gas station hit in the middle of the night. The only lead the cops had was a blurry surveillance image of a figure in a hoodie, and a single clear detail: the snake tattoo wrapped around their arm. Josh hadn't forgotten it. She didn't talk much, only nodded when the manager barked orders. Josh tried to make conversation, keep it light, asking where she was from. She just muttered here and there and went back to scrubbing. No smile, no small talk. Around 2 a.m., the diner was mostly empty. Just a couple truckers in the corner and an old man nursing a slice of pie. The rain had picked up again, tapping hard against the windows. Josh noticed she hadn't touched her break meal, stared out the window like she was waiting for something or someone. Then she did something odd. She stepped outside, no jacket, no umbrella, into the pouring rain. Josh pretended to clean the window but kept an eye on her. She lit a cigarette with a shaky hand, her eyes locked on the empty parking lot. That's when he saw it. A black SUV slowing down as it passed, then circling back. She didn't flinch. Didn't even look surprised. Josh felt his chest tighten. Was this woman in danger? Or was someone coming to meet her? He didn't know. But something told him this wasn't just another slow night at the diner. Josh couldn't stop watching her. From the window, his rag frozen mid-wipe. The black SUV eased back into the lot, headlights off now. It's parked near the far end, engine running, but no one got out. She stood in the rain, arms crossed, staring at it like this was all part of some plan or some reckoning. Josh's gut twisted. Was she being followed? Or was this her ride? Inside the diner, the manager didn't seem to notice a thing. He was busy counting receipts behind the counter. The truckers chatted about engine parts. Everything felt normal. But Josh knew it wasn't. He felt like he was watching the start of something he wasn't supposed to see, back in the kitchen. He pulled his phone out and quietly searched that old news story. The article popped up. String of smash and grabs along state route, suspect still at large. The photo was grainy, but the viper tattoo was clear. Same curve, same pattern. He looked back toward the window. She was gone. Josh rushed to the staff hallway, hoping she hadn't left. He found her near the supply closet, towel in hand, wringing out water from her hair. "Hey," he said, trying to sound casual. "You okay out there?" She looked at him, eyes unreadable, then nodded once. "Just clearing my head." He wanted to ask more. He wanted to say, "I saw the tattoo. I know who you might be." But he didn't. Something about her made it hard to push. Like she was a thread pulled too tight, one wrong tug and everything would unravel. As the clock ticked past 3, strange things started happening. The phone at the counter rang once, then stopped. No one on the other end. Then again, 5 minutes later. Then one of the truckers got up to pay and whispered to the manager as he pointed toward the lot. Josh followed his line of sight. The SUV was still there. Engine off now. A figure leaning against the hood, watching. Was it connected to her? Or was she watching them just as closely? Either way, the night was only getting darker, and Josh was knee-deep in something he didn't understand. Josh stepped back from the window, heart thudding in his chest. The man leaning on the SUV wasn't just watching, he was waiting. Rain still poured hard, soaking everything, but the guy didn't move. He just stood there, like he had all night to burn and nowhere better to be. The woman he still didn't know her name walked past Josh again with the mop, calm as ever. She didn't even glance outside. It was like she knew he'd be there. Like she expected it. Josh couldn't take it anymore. "Hey," he said, lowering his voice. "Who is that guy?" She didn't answer right away, just kept mopping, her focus razor sharp. Then, without looking up, she said, "He's not here for you." That sentence sat heavy between them. Josh swallowed hard. So he is here for someone. Her grip on the mop handle tightened. "Mind your shift, Josh." He should have backed off. But something about the way she said his name, like she already knew everything about him, made it impossible. "Are you in trouble?" he asked, softer this time. "Because if you are, I can help. I don't know how." But she finally looked at him. Not scared, not angry, just tired. "There's no help left, all right? This was just a place to disappear for a night. Nothing more." The doorbell jingled. Everyone in the diner looked up. A man walked in, soaked to the bone, ball cap low over his eyes. He didn't say a word, just scanned the room slowly. His eyes passed over the truckers, the manager, even Josh, then stopped on her. Josh's instincts screamed. The guy had that same unreadable stare, like the woman. But his presence was louder, more dangerous. He walked toward the back table without a word. The woman didn't move. She stood still, staring him down like she'd been waiting for this exact moment. The rain kept hammering the roof. The diner fell dead silent. Josh felt the tension tighten like a rubber band stretched to its limit. The man sat down. She placed the mop against the counter, slowly walked over, and slid into the booth across from him. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. But every soul in that diner could feel that something big was about to break. The air inside the diner turned heavy, like even the walls were holding their breath. Josh stood frozen near the coffee machine. It was locked. On the booth where the woman now sat face to face with the man from the storm. No words passed between them, but the silence felt louder than any argument. Something in the way they sat tense, still. But not strangers made. Josh realized this wasn't their first meeting. The manager, clueless as ever, called out to Josh, snapping him back. "Coffee's low, refill it." Josh nodded absently, grabbed the pot, but his ears stayed locked on the booth. Then a whisper just loud enough to catch. The man leaned forward and said, "You were supposed to be gone by now." The woman didn't flinch. Plans changed. Josh's hand shook slightly as he refilled a mug, but the real shock came a second later. The door creaked open again. This time, two men stepped in. Dark clothes, buzz cuts, moving with intention. They didn't even look around, just made a beeline for the back. Josh's heart kicked into overdrive. The man in the booth noticed them too. He stiffened, then turned back to the woman. "You brought company." She gave a faint, bitter smile. "No. Looks like you did." The two men didn't sit. One of them whispered something into a phone. The other scanned the room with eyes sharp as broken glass. Josh caught a glimpse of something under his jacket metal. Maybe security. Undercover cops, or worse. That's when the lights flickered. Just once, then again. Power in the area had been touchy during the storm, but this felt timed too perfectly. The manager cursed under his breath and ducked into the back to check the breaker. The woman stood up slowly, eyes never leaving the man across from her. "Tell them to back off," she said, "or this ends in the middle of your plate of fries." Josh didn't know what was happening anymore, but he knew one thing for sure. This wasn't about a tattoo or a string of burglaries. This was something deeper, more dangerous. And whoever the woman really was, she wasn't running anymore. She was waiting for all of it to catch up. The lights flickered one more time, then cut out completely. The diner dropped into darkness, lit only by the blinking red of the soda machine and the faint glow from the parking lot. Josh's breath caught as the sudden silence swallowed everything. Even the rain seemed to pause. Then movement. A chair scraped. The woman stepped back from the booth just as the man lunged forward. Josh heard the thud, the clatter of silverware, a grunt, but before he could react, a beam of light flashed across the room. One of the two men had pulled a flashlight, but it wasn't pointed at the woman. It landed on Josh. "You," one of them barked. "Step back now." Confused and frozen, Josh raised his hands. "I work here," he stammered. The woman's voice cut through the dark. "Leave him. He's not part of this." The man in the booth groaned, still down, clutching something his side, maybe. The woman had moved faster than anyone expected. The flashlight shifted again, now catching the glint of something on her belt. Not a Wapana badge. Josh's jaw dropped. A badge. She stepped forward slowly, hands raised to her shoulders, voice calm. "Name's Agent Mara Quinn. Deep cover. Case ID 6R77. That man," she nodded at the one on the ground, "is Hector. Vale, weapons trafficker. Been moving parts under the radar for months, tattoo or no tattoo. He's dirty." The two men froze. Then one of them cursed under his breath and said, "No one told us you were still in play." "I wasn't supposed to be," she replied, eyes still locked on Vale. "But he made the mistake of showing up here. I figured it ends tonight." Josh leaned on the counter, heart racing. He looked at Harajant Quinnand. Everything suddenly clicked. The mop, the silence, the eyes always watching. She hadn't been hiding. She'd been hunting. Just then, the lights buzzed back to life. The diner glowed again. Cheap tiles and chrome shining like nothing had ever happened. But as Vale was cuffed and dragged outside, and the agent spoke quietly near the exit, Quinn turned to Josh with one last nod. "Thanks for the mop," she said, then slipped out the door before he could ask anything more. Josh stood there, stunned. He thought the night had ended. But when he went to clean up the booth where she'd sat, Something small caught his eye under the napkin holder. Folded slip of paper, he opened it. One line written in careful, sharp handwriting. This wasn't the only stop. And just like that, the rain started again. Josh stood behind the counter long after the SUV and black car taillights disappeared down the wet road. The diner had gone quiet again. No agents, no suspects. Just the hum of the cooler and the ticking wall clock above the register. He looked down at the slip of paper in his hand, the words still burning in his mind. This wasn't the only stop. He didn't know what it meant exactly, but it left a weight in his chest. Maybe Agent Quinn was on the move again, heading to another lead. Maybe this night was just one chapter in a much bigger story. One thing was clear. She hadn't ended up in that diner by accident. The manager came out from the back, totally unaware of what had just unfolded. "Breaker's fine now," he muttered, yawning. "Anything weird happen while I was gone?" Josh just smiled faintly. Just a slow night. The truckers had already gone. One half-eaten slice of pie still sat by the window, untouched. Josh cleared the tables, wiped the counters, and finished the last of the coffee pot. When his shift finally ended, he stepped outside and looked out across the empty parking lot, now slick with rain and lit only by the soft glow of a flickering street lamp. He thought about how close he'd come to being in the middle of something dangerous. Or maybe he was in the middle of it and just didn't realize how deep it really went. Sometimes, he realized, people aren't who they appear to be. A mop isn't just a mop. A tattoo could be a warning or a badge in disguise. As he locked up the diner and walked into the rainy morning, Josh couldn't shake the feeling that he'd be seeing Agent Quinn again. And next time, it wouldn't be a coincidence.